Mbeki and Zuma, in Zulu, ubungati amate no limi, they were very close, very, very close. Because Zuma really believed in Thabo Mbeki wholeheartedly. He believed in his intellect, he believed in his thinking, he believed that Thabo Mbeki was an asset to the movement, which he was, really was an asset. Until the time when Thabo Mbeki thought that Zuma needs to be stopped from becoming the deputy president and eventually the president. That's when the tension started. But they were complementing each other very well. I mean, Thabo is more intellectual, is more reserved and so on. Zuma is more outward going and so on.
A people's person.
Yeah. What happened is that Thabo Mbeki tried to persuade Mangosuthu Buthelezi to be his deputy, putting forward the argument to the ANC that if we get Buthelezi to be the deputy and negotiate with him, because the Inkatha Freedom Party had one KwaZulu-Natal, and negotiate with him that the ANC should take the premiership in KwaZulu-Natal, and then we offer him the deputy presidency of the country. That will help us to deal with the issue of violence in KwaZulu-Natal, because now the IFP and Buthelezi would have been part of the government, and so we can manage this thing. But in reality, Thabo Mbeki was avoiding appointing Zuma as his deputy because he had a problem with that. So in order to kick the can down the road and give himself time to deal with the issue, he wanted a stopgap measure, and the stopgap measure was Buthelezi. And of course, he came with a political argument about we can do this in order to deal with the violence in KwaZulu-Natal. But then Buthelezi turned down the offer in the 11th hour, and there was this pressure now because Zuma began to talk about the fact that we don't want him, Labafana Bangfune and so on, and talk to people, and then his lobby began to put pressure. No, but this is the deputy president of the ANC. Why doesn't? So Thabo Mbeki was in trouble. So he decided, all right, let me go. Let me not cause too much trouble. Let me just appoint
So that presidency of Thabo Mbeki, deputized by Jacob Zuma in government right now, was fraught with this standoff, this bad blood. As such, Zuma's office was not properly staffed, for instance. Talk to us about that. You were there. You had suggested the name of Julian Chitenze. And Jacob Zuma works with you much, much later. I want to understand why is that. But importantly, just that presidency right up to 2005, when we'll hear this clip when Jacob Zuma was recalled. So just talk to us about that, the relationship.
Because Thabo Mbeki didn't want to appoint Zuma, so in a way he reluctantly appointed him. And his thinking, with hindsight, his thinking was that he could manage him in office and make sure that he doesn't become president at the end of the day. So that's why as soon as Zuma joined, as soon as he joined Thabo Mbeki's office and became the deputy, the tension started. Because one of the things that happened is that he instructed that there should be restructuring of the office. Of course, there had been an assessment that was done by an independent board which came to the same conclusion, that the presidency was fragmented. You needed to have one director general and one head of communication. So that is the argument that was used. So when the restructuring started, then Zuma was not happy at all about what was happening, because he saw that as a way of marginalizing him. So the tensions increased between the two men, even between the staff now of President Mbeki and Deputy President Zuma.
I've come to the conclusion that the circumstances dictate that in the interest of the Honorable Deputy President, the government, our young democratic system and our country, it would be best to release Honorable Jacob Zuma from his responsibilities as Deputy President of the Republic and member of the Cabinet.
So the clip is very clear. Talk to us about this moment. Was it the presence of Shabir Sheikh that led to this? Was it many other issues, or really it was the extension of the tension between the two men?
Well, our position at the National Intelligence Agency, I'm saying that because I was the Director General there, and the position of the Minister of Intelligence at the time, that was Lindiwe Sisulu, was that we should try and avoid by all means that the President of the country, that was Thabo Mbeki, should be seen in any way to be favoring the removal of Zuma as his deputy. That he must bend over backwards to actually show the country, the alliance, the ANC, that is not his intention to do that. Because our assessment
but clearly it was.
Yeah, I'll come back to
okay.
Because our assessment was that if that is the perception, that was going to divide the ANC down the middle, was going to divide the alliance down the middle, and if the ANC is divided and is weakened, then as the governing party, that is going to impact on governance and the rest of the things. So that's the position that we tried. So the analysis that we're making and the reports that we're giving to the president was to give that analysis, to say these are the dangers that are inherent in this thing if the president can be seen, even if he's not doing it, if there can be an indication or a whiff that is trying to do that. So he must bend over backwards to do that. So when the clip you have just read, when he was going to address Parliament, I was already in Mvelapanda. I left early and I sat in front of my TV and I watched that thing. And I was crossing my fingers as I was sitting there that he shouldn't conclude by saying he's going to fire his deputy, because this is what we feared the most. Sure. So even as he was reading, I kept on crossing my fingers, say, please don't. But we all know that he actually fired him in that speech.
And they were not even talking to each other at that time.
Oh yeah, that time they were not even talking to each other. And I was so shocked when he eventually did it, that I picked up the phone and I called Chikane. Right there when they were still in Parliament, I asked Chikane, Reverend, what happened? And Chikane's response was, hey, unfortunately it had to be done. And I was not convinced that it had to be done. I didn't agree with Chikane that it had to be done, because our assessment was that this now is going to create a real problem in the ANC, So that's what happened.
Then 2007 was inevitable. 2007, yes.
Yes, Pulukwane was inevitable. I mean, it was set. When Zuma was fired, that set the tone for confrontation.
2009 also was inevitable.
Yeah, 2009 also. Yeah.
And 2008 September also was inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
When Thabo Mbeki is now recalled.
Absolutely.
It had to happen, because otherwise the two men could not stand each other. Government was being paralyzed. The ANC was being paralyzed.
Well, let me say, yeah, logically it happened like that. But if the initial thing had not been done to fire Zuma, or for President Mbeki to behave in a way that gave the interpretation that he wanted Zuma out of the way, I think the situation could have been managed better. We would not have had Mbeki recalled. We would not have had the formation of COPE. We would have had Mbeki participating in campaigning for the ANC after he left government and so on. But all those things, were predicated on what had already happened.